are really, I thought to take up the subject of Om Mandli, but in particular, anti-Om Mandli, and really to tell you the stories of what used to happen at that time. So basically, there was a group of people. Actually, it started in April 1935, when when they got to know 3 women who were not willing to, they say in English, give conjugal rights, means they wanted to remain pure. And then, heads started to nod, and like they started to think, what is going on? And in these places, there is normally like a village council, we call it panchayat. And so, of course, Baba was also the head, of one of the heads of the community. So they also invited him to this meeting. And the story was presented that these women are saying they want to be pure. And they asked Baba what he thought, because they knew that something's happening with Baba, some changes. He left his business in 34. And they asked Baba, what's going on? What should we decide? They asked Baba. And Baba said, well, it's their personal affairs. It's their private affairs. They should sort it out themselves. And so that stopped there. And then slowly, they got to know that Baba's doing satsang. And in the satsang, now he's talking about purity, because this was one of the main things. First thing that they were told when they came. And so again, this community, Bhai-Bandh community, they got active, they got busy, and they started collecting money, lakhs of rupees from each other. And then they created the anti-Om Mandli. And so there was a number of things that they were doing, actually. Where to begin, actually? So, of course, they were trying to stop their daughters, granddaughters from going to the satsang, and they were locking them up, right? Many stories of some of the dadis, like Gange Dadi, I think 6, 7 locks. Didi, they say, was locked with 14 locks. So it's not just that they're tied to the bed or the chair, but their room is locked, then the next part is locked, then the front door is locked. And if they want to go to the bathroom, they have to tell the maid or somebody, then they unlock. She goes to the bathroom, comes back. Like this strict, This strict. And then they started complaining that the sisters have magic, that some jadoo has been done to them, some black magic has been done to them. And so they started calling these people, the magic dispellers, magic hatane ke liye bulane lage. And they would come and they would say some mantras, and the sisters would say, okay, if there's magic, it should come off, no? When you do your mantras and whatever your rituals, if there's magic, it should come off, so go ahead. So they used to come and, do something, and then they'd sprinkle some water. And then there was the time where Gange Dadi says there was some jadoo magic done to this glass of water. And she was asked to drink it. And she said, no, drink I will not. And she pushed the glass and it, fell and the water spilled. But she said, we never drank any of that. Then they started saying that there is surma. Baba gives special surma, this eye ointment. And that's what changes their vision. Drishtikon badal jati hai. So again, that was a myth, that was not true. Anyway, so these were the things happening there. Then a number of things happened, right? I think a few weeks ago, I told you that they then said, okay, we will give a prize. This is why they were collecting money, to be able to do all these kinds of things. So they said, we will give big prize to somebody who brings Baba's head. That means, kill him, bring his head, and we'll give them big prize money. And so there was one person, and he came with his big sword. And, in those days, like here, we have garden and wall, and there's not that much security. So he jumped over the wall. And of course, Baba, Jani, Jan and Har, Baba knows everything, what's going on. And so Baba's in his room. This man enters the room. But as he enters the room, he just sees really bright light. He sees Baba sitting there. Of course, Baba knows, and Baba's giving drishti, and Baba is completely unmoved. Not shaken, not shocked, not surprised. And Baba says, Bacche, child, like Habibi, Habibti, you have come. And then he just, drops his sword and he falls to the ground and he says, I'm so sorry. And just then one of the sisters was coming to give Baba his food. And she saw this scene, this man with this big sword. She called the others. And then Baba said, it's okay. You feed him some dinner and then he can go. So they tried that. And then, of course, as you know, there was picketing. Now, the thing is that there was Jashoda Bhavan, and next to that was the house of Dadi Nirmal Shanta's husband's brother. Actually, what happened is that initially they were building both houses together so the brothers could live side by side. But then they had some losses in Egypt. They had businesses outside Damascus, Beirut, Cairo. So they had some losses and they couldn't finish building that house. So when Nirmal Shanta Dadi was to get married, then Baba said, okay, he will buy that house. So Dadi Nirmal Shanta's brother-in-law, he was living there with his wife and Baba's house here. So what used to happen is they used to be able to see from this house what is happening in this, like here, the neighbor can see into our garden, what's happening. And so many times, they were dancing with ankle bells and music was going on. And, when you see people dancing, it looks a bit crazy if you don't know what's going on or if you're not part of it. And so they didn't like this. He didn't like this music being played. So anyway, they started picketing and blocking the road. The children went out in the buses. Baba had 2 buses. And they would be taken out on outings. So they would leave in the morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock, and they'd be out, ghumne firane le jate, like a little sightseeing. And they came back at 2:30, and now it's the heat of the day. And all these people, have blocked this road and they cannot enter the house. And these poor children, that's that famous picture. The poor children are just standing in a line in the heat. And dadis are saying, on one side is the daughter, on the other side is the father. Like the daughter wants to be with Baba, the father is objecting. So here, Om Mandli, and the other side, anti-Om Mandli. They're relatives of each other, blocking each other. And then they started giving water and biscuits to the children. And the children said, no, we don't want anything. They were so disciplined and they just didn't want to take anything from that side, again, in case it influenced them. They're very strong in their discipline. Yeah, so then the dadis came along. See, most of this happened when Baba was not there. Baba used to go off to Karachi. This happened in Hyderabad. And then once what happened, so actually that picketing lasted 3 days. What would happen is the children would go out, they'd come back, then the police come, they disperse them, Then actually on the 3rd day, Brijindra Dadi's brother, he was still very much attached to her, but he was also part of anti-Om Mandli. And then he felt sorry for her out of attachment. And he said, this cannot continue. So he went to the collector and he said, we've got to finish this. This isn't good for the children or us. So he was one of those who then, got it to stop. But anyway, on one of those occasions, one of the men, it was actually Dadi Chandramani's brother-in-law. So he lied in front of the door. And he said, if you want to enter, you will have to, pass over me. And it's not good, actually, no? Kisi ko aise cross kare. It's not good omens or whatever. It's kind of superstitious if you cross over somebody. So Dadi Chandramani, right, with her bold voice, she said, I will step on you. I will step on your stomach, but I will go inside. This much Josh, courage. Anyway, this kind of things continued. Actually, another time what they did was they came, and this time they had the thought that they would burn, the building. And so they threw. Actually, what I found out is the letters of permission were in Baba's office. And so they thought if we burn these letters of permission, then he doesn't have any proof that we have given permission for them to go. So that time they threw something, and somehow, can you believe, Baba had the touching. So Baba sent one of the houseboys and said, go down and check, is everything okay? And just then he started to smell the smoke. And that's how the fire was put out. So that didn't burn. Okay, another time what happened is, again, they came, and as I said, they didn't like what was happening, and they crossed over the terraces, because at that time there's terrace, right, from this house to that. So they jumped from terrace to terrace, and they ended up in the front of the house, and they tried to break the door. So all the dadis, 3-4 dadis, stood against the door, and they couldn't. And they said, what is wrong? Why we can't open this door? How comes the door is so? So imagine on this side Shaktis, and on that side them. They should be able to push the door open, right? But somehow, again, these Shaktis had so much courage to, keep the door closed. And then they said, okay, let's go from the back. And upstairs, there was a room in Baba's house where there was not a proper window. And so they saw it open. They said, let's go from there. So they put a ladder, okay? And on the other side, the sisters had already, they said, we had already, paid attention to where could they come in from. उन्होंने कहा हमने ध्यान रखा कि कहाँ कहाँ से आ सकते हैं, तो सब एक एक वहाँ खड़ी हो गई. And you know what they did? They got all the spoons and everything from the kitchen. And so this was their weapons. So because also we have big spoons for big cooking, no? And so they took tongs and they took spoons, and they went to stand up there. So when he came up, then they would push him in the belly, pet mein se dabate the, and then he would be shocked and fall down. So 2-3 tried like this, and they realized that doesn't work. So they stopped that. Right. So I talked about arson. I talked about picketing. I talked about magic. Yeah. And they also stopped. They also told the landlords to not rent houses to Baba. They said that, they sent threatening letters, They said, if you continue renting, we will do this to you. We will exclude you from this community, etc., etc. And even this is on the internet, this information. And then what happened one day is Baba said to the sisters, send a record to Dadi Nirmal Shanta's husband's brother. And so they sent him a record. But again, some of them who are so, suspicious, they said, no, don't touch the record. Like it was a gramophone record. They said it has jadoo, it has magic in it. And if you touch it, if you play it, you will also get colored, by it. And so they called somebody again. And, it's big business for them now, these people who check the jadoo. they make money, they say, we can dissolve this, we can finish this. And so they were making money. So he comes, of course, what is he going to say? He said, yes, there's big jadoo. It's good job you didn't touch this record. We have to destroy this now. And so everybody took bricks and stones and they started breaking this record to try and break the jadoo from this record. And then there's the Dada Vaswani story, where Dadi Chandramani said that, Baba told us to go and see him, right? Dada Vaswani was one of the leaders of the Sindhi community. And Baba said, tell him to come and hear everybody's experiences, and then maybe later he can decide what he wants to do and not join that revolution. So they went to see him, they took Toli and everything. Dadi Chandramani said, we spoke to him, he listened to us so nicely. He said he had a lot of respect for Baba, a lot of love for Baba. So Dadi Chandramani said, okay, come, Baba's inviting you. He said, okay, let's go. And then he got in their car, the car that had taken them. And as he got in the car, then his followers surrounded the car. And Dadi, in another class, said actually one of them slept under the car and said, this car will not move. So he told them, I will come back, nothing will happen, but they wouldn't listen. And then he said, okay, I will come another time. So he got out of the car. Then they influenced him so much by, talking. And then he joined them. He joined them in the picketing. And then, can you believe, the police came and took him to the police station. And according to the records, he spent one night in the police station. So then Baba said, see, if the child had followed his instinct, if he had followed the knowledge, then this would not have happened to him. So this is how they were influencing, everybody's mind. And then there's another story of, where one of they were in the picketing line. And one of the grandfathers said, he was bragging, like, badai kar raha tha, ki maine to meri ladkiyon ko, ya whatever, granddaughters go, I have locked them up, and everybody else should do the same. And just then she comes running. And he's shocked. He said, how did you get here? So she had freed herself from the locks. And so then, of course, it was insult to him. So things like this would happen, and then they would get mad even more. Or he gussa aate the ke hame ek taraf ye keh rahe fir dusri taraf, wo ho raha hai. And then I want to say how, they had relief from the local minister. You can call him chief minister. So Allah Baksh was the local minister at that time. The chief minister and the law minister often worked together. And they used to come and go, actually. I mean, they used to know what was going on and all that. And these people, the Mukhi group, would send letters to them and threaten them and say, look, if you don't do something, we will not give you the votes. So at first they said, Allah Baksh said, look, there is nothing we can catch him on. Like nothing that he's, everybody's allowed to practice their own faith. He's not doing anything wrong. So there's nothing that we can do. And so then what happened is when they started leaving the party, then they had, they were forced. But even then, they were very kind and gentle. And he said to Baba, look, it's better you move. It's better you change your name, to make this a little parakam, to reduce all this conflict. And that's when Baba then shifted to Karachi. And that's when the name changed from Om Mandli to this Rajeshwar Ashwamekh Ishwariya Avinashi Putra Gyan Yagya. And yes, then in Karachi, they were, it was a bigger city and more policemen, more British rule. And so these things couldn't happen so easily. I mean, as soon as some dispute, the police would get there and stop it. So they had more shanti there. So point is that, yeah, we don't understand how much, Baba went through. Of course, defamation. We haven't even talked about how much defamation Baba went through. The other day also Baba said in the Murli, no, that they wrote in the papers in America that he's asking for so many wives. And also some used to think that they wrote in the papers that Saraswati is he divorced his wife, Yashoda, and he's married now this young Mama, Saraswati. So just so much, defamation as well. But, Baba was just so, I could see through all that, Baba was just so unshaken, so stable. And all the time, Baba used to say, it's his task, it's his task. I mean, what defamation do we have? What test do we have? And can we stay stable in that? I mean, there's no way we have a test as big as Baba's. Plus, imagine he's establishing the Yagya. He's establishing the Yagya, right? We are just practicing as students. But yet, Baba didn't think what will happen. Like, imagine if you had to create something. Imagine if you had to create a company or organization. You would be very worried. But no, all the time it was obvious that Baba just had this faith that it's him up there, who is, So anyway, very touching stories of Baba. So what do we have to learn from that?
Have faith.
Have faith and be strong and be courageous. I'll just say this last story of Dadi Chandramani. So basically, Dadi Chandramani, she was saying that she really didn't want to go on service. And she said every time Baba would ask in the hall, who will go next to this place and that place? And she said she just used to look down with her arms folded, and she would never say yes because she really didn't want to leave Baba. And then finally she said, Mama and Baba then took me by each hand and put me on the bus and said, okay, you will now go to wherever. And she said, going in the bus all the way down, she said she was crying because, they didn't want to leave Baba. So this is the faith, this is the love, this is actually what Baba's talking about today in the Murli. I mean, do we have that kind of faith that truly it's Baba? And they just give drishti, like I was saying this in the week, they just give drishti and people are touched. And here we have to give so much knowledge, and then people are touched. But they just had the love. Actually, they were saying, Dadis are saying in their classes, we didn't speak good Hindi because they were Sindhi. They had to learn Hindi. So they didn't speak good Hindi. They didn't have English. In fact, Hirday Pushpa Dadi's story is that, again, she was sent somewhere, sent to the south, where they speak all these languages she doesn't speak, right? This Kannada and Telugu and Malayalam. And they speak English also. So when she went, this brother came, he said he wants to do the course. So how can she tell him, no, don't come? But they can't communicate. So she sat down, she remembered Baba, and somehow she said, I started speaking English. Then he said, okay, I will come tomorrow. And she thought, what did he understand? What did I say? So amazing stories of how really Baba uses us, Baba touches us, Baba helps us. Okay. Om Shanti.